On this week's episode of The Pulse, Sacred Heart is boosting student involvement with their new initiative ahead of the presidential election.
Get a look into the importance of being an informed voter.
Find out the major issues that students will take into consideration when they vote.
And get the rundown on Sacred Heart Sports.
I'm Samantha Morano.
And I'm Molly Bruton. These stories and more on Sacred Heart's very own monthly news program.
You're watching The Pulse.
From Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is The Pulse.
In little more than a week, the highly anticipated presidential election will be on November 5th. Sacred Heart University is making efforts to get out the vote by introducing their new on-campus initiative to get students more involved in the democratic process. Colin Mora has the story.
Election Day is November 5th, and the nation lies in wait. As early voting takes place across the state, Sacred Heart University is promoting voter registration through their all-new Get Out to Vote initiative. Despite there being 41 million eligible Gen Z voters in the upcoming election, younger voters are far behind their older counterparts in voter turnout. Campus efforts are trying to get more students to engage with the democratic process by voicing their beliefs at the ballot box. Collaborating with the GOTV initiative is President Dr. John Patillo, who is encouraging students to exercise their fundamental right to vote.
I'm very concerned, as others in the community are, that young people don't vote. I think it's important that they realize there is a communal responsibility and that they're not lost just because they're one vote in the national and more in the local. It could have a big impact. This university, in either Fairfield or Bridgeport, issues are won on 50 to 100 votes. In both towns, we have about 2,000 students. So it's important that they realize the importance of the vote, as well as the importance of getting to know what the issues are.
Pioneer Vote is led by Rebecca Brower, a social work major in her senior year. The student-led campaign is a nonpartisan organization that aims to raise awareness on political issues occurring at the local, state, and federal level.
We are a nonpartisan club here on campus. Our job is to promote civic engagement amongst our college students, and we have registration drives to try to register students here on campus to vote, especially in Connecticut, since we will be living here for 4 years. So we try to get everyone involved in not only the federal, but also the state elections. And then we also have events like having the state representative and Senate come and speak to everyone about how important it is to have Gen Z come and vote on campus. We are going to be the most affected in what happens in the next 4 years and in other elections to come, so we should want to have a say in what's going on and who we want to be elected.
In Princeton Review's annual ranking of the least politically engaged campuses, SHU ranked number 20 in the country and first in the state. Brower hopes that Pioneer Vote will help stimulate civic engagement on campus.
We have been working closely with the Secretary of the State, Stephanie Thomas. We are trying to promote a safe space here on campus. We want every student to feel comfortable enough to come to us and discuss any opinion and feel like they are in a safe enough place to go and cast their vote.
Sacred Heart graduate Alejandro Ramos helped launch the Get Out to Vote initiative this summer, bringing together the presidents of multiple campus organizations, including Pioneer Vote, SHU Democrats and Republicans, the Spectrum, and the Social Work Club. The former president of student government at SHU, Ramos now attends Cornell University, where he is a Brooks Public Policy Fellow. He is the editor-in-chief of Cornell Policy Review and the founder of the Ramos Research Institute, which works on original research, polling, and policy analysis.
Voting is so incredibly important. 2024 has been dubbed the year of elections. This year, we will have more elections worldwide and more people voting worldwide than we ever have in the history of the world. So I think it's important that students realize how much a tiny race makes an impact, like student government or a mayoral race, because we tend to focus on the presidential politics, right? Because that's what's in our face. People tend to forget that local has more of a day-to-day impact, right? Local controls schools, controls policing, controls the roads, controls so much that, a president or, a senator isn't responsible for. So I think that more and more people need to become aware of what the repercussions are of not voting.
Legislators are currently campaigning across the state, encouraging voters to research the issues that are the most important to them.
He is also so important.
On October 5th, Governor Ned Lamont, Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysiewicz, and U.S. Rep. Jim Hines were among those gathered at the Morehouse Pavilion in Easton, organizing a rally for women's reproductive rights.
We'll do everything we can here in Connecticut to protect and expand our rights and make sure there's opportunity for each and every one of our folks, regardless of race, color, creed, zip code, sexual orientation. That's what Connecticut's all about.
Connecticut's in-person early voting will continue to take place until November 3rd. Absentee ballots are due when the polls close on Election Day. Make sure to bring identification to the voting booths. Reporting for The Pulse from Fairfield, Connecticut, I'm Colin Mora.
In addition to the Get Out the Vote initiative, Sacred Heart University Professor Gary Rose sat down with Maddie Beekman to explain the importance of being an informed voter.
Well, to be an informed voter, you have to have knowledge. And so I always go back to the old adage that knowledge is power. And the more knowledge you have about not just how to vote and the process of voting, but the positions of candidates, then your vote really is probably going to weigh more and count more because you are an informed voter. And so knowledge, I think, gives you, that personal sense of power if you know why you're voting and for what you're voting.
When important issues come up, we like to take the pulse of the SHU student body, so we asked what issues are important to you in the presidential election.
I'm here interviewing fellow Sacred Heart students, asking them what political issues are going to be the deciding factor in who they vote for in the 2024 presidential election. Here's what they had to say.
I think the most important issue in the upcoming presidential election is inflation.
I'd say probably the economy. I think the biggest problem that can be solved in the next presidency would be inflation, especially as a college student paying for rent and groceries. It's getting really expensive, but we haven't really been making more in any of our jobs, so either increasing the minimum wage or bringing the prices down for different items.
I think the most important issue is the cost of living.
The biggest issue for me is the economy.
I think that the economic state and financial status of our country is probably one of the more important issues, given the fact that we are severely in debt, and that issue in and of itself kind of encompasses a lot of other issues. When that one is solved, I feel like we're able to kind of address other concerns more diligently.
So I would say that the biggest problem that needs to be resolved is inflation rates.
I think the most important issue right now is the economy. Prices are going up, groceries cost a lot more, gas, and want to bring that down with this election.
It's so interesting that among the students we interviewed, so many of them are concerned about inflation and the economy.
It's a small sample, and I'm guessing there are other issues that our student body are concerned about.
When we come back, find out about how you can keep an eye on AI.
And come join us at Sacred Heart's annual Alzheimer's Awareness Walk.
A flyway is like a superhighway for birds. It's an area where huge numbers of birds move from one place to another in migration.
People often think of migrations with terrestrial animals, but those are much smaller migrations than what birds do. Birds literally move across the whole earth.
They're great indicators of how our environment is doing. I always talk about the canary in the coal mine.
Stopover habitat is disappearing faster and faster. The birds are finding fewer and fewer places that they can stop in, and that's leading to a decrease in the populations of many of these migrant birds.
Apex predators are important in regulating habitats that the birds need both in migration and in breeding.
Even though you might not see wolves out there predating on, say, the snow geese, they're still such an integral part of this entire ecosystem and this landscape. We know this is wild up here.
What started as a film about birds has totally metamorphosized into a project about how birds connect our environments. They truly create the flyway of life.
Welcome back to The Pulse. As social media platforms become battlegrounds for political narratives, disinformation campaigns, often powered by AI, are becoming harder to detect, from manipulated videos to misleading headlines. It is incredibly easy to be fooled. Danielle Grillo has the story.
Artificial intelligence. These are two words that have been used for decades, but have become an integral part when discussing our modern digital age. AI programs have found their way into spaces such as classrooms, research programs, medical fields, and now even the current election season.
I think we're still just learning the very beginning of the potential for AI, and there's lots of opportunities for AI to progress technology, especially, I think, in the medical field.
Despite the abundance of potential AI is said to have in the future, there are still concerns that these systems are currently too unfamiliar and can have negative impacts on U.S. citizens.
The promises of curing cancer or developing new understandings of physics and biology or modeling climate and weather, all very encouraging and hopeful, but we also know the potential harms.
We also know that generative AI can authoritatively deliver wildly incorrect information. It can hallucinate, as is often described. It can impersonate loved ones. It can encourage self-destructive behaviors, and it can shape public opinion and the outcome of elections.
The amplified spread of misinformation across media platforms is also sounding alarms this election season, making it harder to know exactly where political candidates stand.
I think when we look at people, we're trying to see who they are, their value system, what issues that we believe in, and how they are actually being able to tell us about them, to actually communicate them well to us. And an AI doing it on their behalf doesn't give any consideration of their ability to do the job.
Deepfakes, robocalls, and misleading content have restructured the digital landscape for political campaigning and how we consume our information.
It's all too easy to impersonate a voice on a robocall or any other phone call. These deep fakes are a pernicious, persistent, and immediate danger of distortion and deception.
We need to think about how information is originated and if we're getting the full story. Too often, because of the pace in which news is put forth, we're only getting pieces of the story.
The solution to this is not yet set in stone, but media literacy can help take a huge step in the right direction.
Without media literacy, we tend to believe what we want to believe, and we don't question our own thinking. That's what media literacy offers, is the ability to question what we see and maybe discern further, maybe delve deeper, maybe research more.
I think our young people knowing how to differentiate between valid and invalid news sources is foundational for the future of our democracy.
Government officials from across the country are also urging Congress to take action to ensure that our rights are not violated.
Safeguards are paramount during the election season.
Are we going to have further disaster? Are we going to have an electoral disaster before Congress realizes, gee, we really should do something to give the public some sense of safety, some sense of certainty that what they're seeing and hearing is actually real?
So how can you as an individual voter contribute to protecting the truth? Be aware this election season.
More than anything else, it's to listen, and listen with your ears really open to how people are considering and thinking things.
And uphold your responsibility as a U.S. voter to make sure the decisions made when at the polls this season are rooted in facts, not fiction. Reporting for The Pulse, Fairfield, Connecticut, Danielle Grillo.
Sacred Heart University is raising awareness about Alzheimer's by holding their annual walk to end Alzheimer's. This walk is the largest event to raise funds and awareness for the Alzheimer's Association. It's held annually in more than 600 communities nationwide. Maria Kelly has the story.
On Saturday, October 11th, Sacred Heart University rose awareness about Alzheimer's by holding their annual Walk to End Alzheimer's. This event is held in over 600 communities, and Sacred Heart has partnered up with the association to help the cause. Participants received a flower to place in the Promised Garden. Each flower color represents a connection you have to the cause, whether it's for someone you lost to the disease or if you just want to raise awareness. Many vendors came to supply the event. Along with vendors, their partners, like Ludlow Center for Health and Rehabilitation, came to support. President of Delta Zeta, Caitlin McAlvin, talks about why she came to the walk.
I came to the walk to show my support because I feel like that this is a topic that people don't really know about or understand.
While this event is for a serious cause, the association made it a blast by providing activities, performances, and games. Sacred Heart alumni and participant of the association, Lisa Ferroni, talks about why this walk is important to our community.
It's the connection with the people, like just hearing other people and what they've gone through, and if you're going through it, it really helps to hear somebody else's story and just to say you understand and you care.
So many members of the community, like families, students, Greek life, and athletes, participated in the walk. Participants of the walk placed their flowers into the Promise Garden to remember the reason why they are here and supporting. Faculty of Sacred Heart touch upon the importance this walk has on the university.
I think it's an easy fit for our mission of the university, and our students really resonate with this cause, and not only fundraising and having kind of community hours associated with it, but also a form of advocacy and awareness for something that's really they're passionate about.
Leaders of the walk, Bobby Tarr and Cheryl Podob, touch upon the importance of raising awareness for the disease.
I think it's important that the next generation gets an understanding of Alzheimer's. It's one of those diseases that was so taboo for many, many years. People didn't speak about it because they didn't know what it was. They would just say, oh, so-and-so is getting old, or they have dementia, but the word dementia didn't really mean anything. This is the generation that they're going to see some great changes over the next couple of years and some advances in science. And we want to make Alzheimer's not have that stigma anymore. We want people to be aware of what's out there, what services are in their areas, what services there are for caregivers, like Cheryl said, as well as, support for the families and, the people themselves that are going through it.
Right. This is an underserved population because many of the students and the faculty here are touched by this disease, and they feel unseen and unheard, and by having this walk on the campus, they feel empowered, they feel supported, they know that there's resources out there, and so it just all comes together really well.
Very proud of our 3-year affiliation with the Alzheimer's
For The Pulse, Maria Kelly, Fairfield, Connecticut.
It really inspired.
We are the white flower of hope!
What a great event for a great cause.
I agree. It's so great that Sacred Heart gets to be one of those 600 communities nationwide.
When we come back, find out about the Big Mac. And no, we're not talking about the burger.
And get a look into what Sacred Heart football fans are saying about the new rule changes in the NFL. Welcome back to The Pulse. With this fall season of Pioneer Sports in full swing, we have a lot of catching up to do. Here's our very own Jake Walsh with this week's Sports Roundup.
Thanks, Samantha. As we get into early November, some of our fall sports seasons start to come to a close. With some conference games still coming up, our fall teams will make a push to their first MAAC conference playoffs. Men's soccer is 7-3-1 with 3 conference games to go. All 3 games will be played this week with 2 home games and 1 on the road. They will start the week against crosstown rival Fairfield University on Wednesday, and then on Saturday they will take on MAAC College at 4. The men will wrap up their season on the road against Manhattan College on November 6th. Women's soccer has just 1 game this week, wrapping up their season on Wednesday at home against St. Peter's University. With no game this week for football, the men will come back home on Saturday, November 9th against LIU for Senior Day. They will then wrap up their season on the road against MAAC College for the Yankee Conference Championship. Men's ice hockey, who recently started their season, will play 2 games on the road against Bentley on Friday and Saturday. Both games will start at 7 p.m. Women's ice hockey has gotten off to a great start. Through 6 games, they are 4-2, and their next games will be next weekend against LIU, one being on the road and then at home the next day. Last spring, the Sacred Heart William H. Pitt Center went under renovation. On October 26th, the center opened for its first games. Over the weekend, women's volleyball played their first game on the new court against Marist. Women's volleyball will continue their week at home against 2 crosstown rivals in Fairfield and Quinnipiac. It's officially basketball season. Both men and women's basketball will begin their first season in the MAAC. Men's hoops will start their season on the road at Temple University on Monday, November 4th. Then play back-to-back national champions UConn on November 6th. The women's team will start on Monday as well against Hofstra and then head to Boston College on Thursday. To keep in touch with all your favorite Pioneer sports, check out Sacred Heart's new streaming service, Pioneer Plus. To access Pioneer Plus, go to sacredheartuniversity.com and you will find the Pioneers Plus tab on top of the site. This is a great way to watch your favorite SHU sports teams and keep up with all the action. That's all for this week on SHU Sports Round Up. I'm Jake Walsh. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Jake. It's a new year and a new conference. After a 24-year membership with the Northeast Conference, Sacred Heart University has a new start in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAAC. Eamon Benarsik has the story.
On October 23, 2023, Sacred Heart University announced it would change its primary athletic conference from the Northeast Conference to the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. After 20-plus years in the NEC, Sacred Heart begins a journey in a new but familiar athletic conference.
The move to the MAAC is something that benefits the majority of the teams here at Sacred Heart, the varsity teams. There's obviously a few teams that get displaced by moving to the MAAC, but for the overall benefit of the athletics program here at Sacred Heart University, the move to the MAAC is something that needed to be done.
So the MAAC conference for women's basketball and for basketball across the board elevates us to this next level in the country, nationally. They have unbelievable coaches in the MAAC. There are very talented players in the MAAC. I really think that us leaving our previous conference and going to the MAAC just positions us from a recruiting standpoint, from a community engagement standpoint, like it brings us to that next level.
The MAAC schools are like-minded schools with Sacred Heart University's philosophy, and there's a lot of great in-state rivals, local rivalries.
Our games against Fairfield have been historically our most fun competitive games. I think the crosstown rivalry is amazing, and we talked about it this summer, the coach and I there, how one town, now one conference, one championship, and Fairfield does a great job with their program. We're coming off back-to-back championships with ours. Like, the rivalry, I think, will just elevate to that next level, especially with the new arena and with the great fan engagement we're going to have. So we're excited. We're excited to have an in-town rivalry.
Being in the MAAC is going to be more of a challenge, obviously. It's a little heavier lift because there are different schools we're competing with that are enjoying the use of the brand and the alignment with other schools that are like that in the MAAC. So it's all great challenges. It's when you aspire to be challenged. You aspire for learning and handling challenges, growing leadership, and being better as what we're doing. And excellence. And if you can be excellent, hopefully that'll translate to success on the field.
Sacred Heart University will now look to continue its success in the MAAC, as well as new opportunities to be challenged and show off on a larger stage.
Reporting for The Pulse from Fairfield, Connecticut, I'm Eamon Benarsik.
Nothing says autumn like football, and with this NFL season well underway, fans are seeing a number of rules change this year in their favorite sport. Corey Coy has the story.
Nothing marks the start of the fall season on campus quite like football. As the leaves turn brown and fans pack into million-dollar stadiums, there's an undeniable feeling of excitement filling the air. With the collegiate and professional seasons already kicking off in full swing, fans of our nation's most popular sport will look to eagerly discuss their opinions with one another. To better understand how the modern game works, we highlighted some key additions and changes taking place in the NFL this year. In order to gauge students' passion for the sport, we asked several students for their opinion on these changes. Several changes have been brought to the NFL rulebook for this season as the league attempts to reduce the volume of injuries, with the most notable change taking place on the opening kick. During the kickoff, both teams set up as if it is a normal play, with the receiving team lined up approximately 5 yards away. The kicker must then kick the ball in between the opposing goal line and 20-yard line, designated as the new landing zone. members of the receiving team must field the ball if it falls in between this landing zone, unless it goes out of the end zone for a touchback. In the event of a touchback, the ball is placed at the 30-yard line, assuming that the ball did not touch the landing zone during the play. If this is the case, the touchback spot is moved back to the 20-yard line. Finally, receiving players can no longer wave their arms to call for a fair catch as the play is developing.
Although I do not agree with the new NFL kickoff protocols, I do think that it will help prevent injury in the long run because the receiver will not be getting a hard tackle.
I actually agree with the new kickoff protocol because not only will it decrease the number of injuries, but it will also help improve fantasy league scores.
Another change prompted by injury concerns was the removal of the hip drop tackle popular amongst defenders. When initiating this tackle, defenders grab the receiver from a behind position and use their weight to force the opposing player to the ground. When this tackle is executed, the receiver runs the risk of injuring his knees as body weight is forced onto the legs.
I think it's a good thing that the league has removed the hip drop tackle. I think it was very dangerous and it resulted in a lot of player injuries. And there's better tackles that can be used from that position, like a shoestring tackle. So all around a good move.
Notable stars have become victim to this move in recent years, most notably Ravens tight end Mark Andrews, who suffered a broken fibula and extensive ligament damage following a hip drop tackle from Bengals linebacker Logan Wilson. Defenders flagged for using this move will be penalized for an extra 15 yards and an automatic first down. Another addition to note is the league's new Guardian cap, a type of headwear that provides increased security when worn. Players are encouraged to wear these caps as a soft-shell alternative to the typical helmet, with the idea that increased padding and protection will gradually diminish the amount of concussions and other related head injuries that plague the modern-day football player.
I think that they're interesting. I think that they definitely are useful, but I don't think that people like the way that they look, which is why a lot of the players probably won't use them. I think that with all of the updates in sports medicine and stuff, that they should find a way to put them inside of the helmet so that it might be more appealing to the players.
Personally, I think they're just way too ugly to be wearing. I understand they're important, but they just look so bad on the players.
In recent years, the NFL has partnered with multiple organizations to provide fans with scholarship opportunities for higher education. The NATA Scholarship Series provides funds for collegiate students pursuing a degree in athletic training. Eligible students must be in their junior year or higher and have achieved a GPA of 3.2 or above. The PFATS Foundation Program offers grants to minority graduate students involved in a doctoral program. For students to be considered eligible, they must be in good academic standing and working towards a degree in the aforementioned fields. Application forms and additional information can be found on the organization's website. In Fairfield, Connecticut, Corey Coy, The Pulse.
When we get back, get a look into the special guests that visited Sacred Heart this past month.
Get a behind-the-scenes look into the new Sacred Hearts Filmmakers Club.
And find out all about the spine-chilling trip that Sacred Heart students took to Salem.
The pursuit of truth and knowledge.
Recognition of dignity and worth of every human being.
Promotion of the common good of society.
We're always evolving. Your passions should always change, right? Not to say that you should throw away your old passion. They root you, they make you who you are. If I ever want to progress in life, I know that I have to learn new things, be understanding of different cultures, different backgrounds, different interests.
The lessons I learn at Sacred Heart can help me make a meaningful impact that it will lead me to do work that is good for every single person in the world.
I'm drawn to writing socially impactful pieces because theater, it speaks to broad audiences. They can learn from the piece, or they might sit there and say, I've been through that. Even if it's just one person, I feel like then it was a successful piece.
You are not only going to learn from other students, but you're going to learn about yourself.
I was always asking why, and I saw that with molecular and cellular biology, you go to the smallest detail of that why. In my future path, I hope to answer more of those whys.
Welcome back to The Pulse. This month, there was an event on campus to bring the student body together to celebrate unity and diversity. The conference was spearheaded by Is Wafi.
The mainstream will have no other choice but to join in on this.
This past month, Is Wafi, a digital media and news company, took a trip to Sacred Heart to host Revolution 2024, Unity and Diversity Conference. This event took place over the course of 2 days, celebrating the power of diversity, inclusion, and community. There were multiple discussions to attend over the weekend, such as highlighting the topics of colorism versus racism, culture in media, the impact of entrepreneurship, and unity and diversity. In addition to these conversations, there were family fun activities and interactive booths that showcased local businesses and cultural organizations.
Get ready to roll! Sacred Heart University is rolling out the red carpet for the Short Filmmakers Club after launching last fall. The club aims to provide aspiring filmmakers with a collaborative space to create, direct, and produce their own short films. Alexi Grime has the story.
So it's kind of like cynical, like old people. And then the alternate universe will be him with, like, I don't know.
Sacred Heart University has revived an organization called the Short Filmmakers Club. With over 40 new members on the email list, the Short Filmmakers Club hopes to become one of the more highly sought-after organizations for film fans. The club aims to provide hands-on experience, networking opportunities, and a platform for students to showcase their creative work. A senior student from Sacred Heart University, Robert Jusko, brought the club back to life with a focus on helping those who haven't had opportunities to intern in the real world.
So we started the club up last semester, spring 2024. We had a small crew, but it was a great crew. We had a lot of professional equipment that we were using. This year we have even more students joining the club and participating, and we all sort of just work together to spitball ideas, and then we combine them to create, a coherent story. We just have fun. It's just a bunch of students, we're interested in making short films, working together on projects. Very relaxed environment, but we do take it seriously at the same time. We work with expensive professional equipment. We have long shoot times on set. We make sure to, follow proper set etiquette and everything. But, during our meetings, we hang out, we laugh, we have fun, but we also get stuff done, so.
Initially, Robert wanted to pursue a film program at Sacred Heart, though he was shown a different direction of future careers. Despite this, Robert still was eager to create a community of aspiring filmmakers. There weren't many clubs on campus that had his motive, so he decided to start his own in hopes of finding people that will work together to bring pen and paper to screens. Like any club, Robert and his team needed an advisor. Upon researching possible candidates, they found themselves in the office of Professor Golda of Sacred Heart University's multimedia household. Golda is a multimedia productions coordinator, media studio supervisor, and the proud owner of Construct Media Studios, a multimedia production company specializing in audio and video production. Golda has been in the midst of people like those in the Short Filmmakers Club, and sat down with us to tell us what he thinks of them.
It was an unexpected visit from Rob, who is the president of the Short Filmmakers Club. We've had numerous clubs over the years, and I said to him, it's usually somebody like you that comes in, starts something, has this initiative, but when you go, will the club go too? I've been watching the meeting notes and seeing how students are being attracted to this. It looks like a really interesting way to get involved for students. And then to have sessions where you're brainstorming and bringing ideas together and volunteering and saying, I'll do the lighting, I'll do the sound, things like that. That's exactly what students need to do.
Professor Golda notes that the Short Filmmakers Club is a great way for students to work together for a common interest, and that for those who want to continue on to have a position in media should build connections with each other within the collaborative meetings, finally stating that, quote, "You cannot do this alone." And finally, I'd like to talk about my position as the Vice President and Main Director of Photography for the Short Filmmakers Club. From a very young age, I've thrown myself into the film world. Since going to Sacred Heart, I've had multiple experiences with Netflix and Lifetime Studio productions. And at my sophomore year, I wanted to start this club with Robert. I wanted to start this club because it was something that I saw was lacking in many, as well as our school. I think the most valuable currency you can own is experience and knowledge. I've tried to implement as much as I could from my experience into most of the films, and I think they've gone extremely well. My favorite part of being on these shoots is seeing students open their eyes to what's actually possible. I know plenty of people back at home that go to colleges that don't have these experiences and want them. And not only do they want it for the experience, they want it to be around their peers. They want it to be around people that are like-minded. I think what's most important is the team building and the bonding and learning how to work with so many people with so many different positions. And for the future of the club, I hope that somebody else continues it. The leaders of the Short Filmmakers Club aspire to help others carry on their legacy. They trust that their club will live on and see hope in the future. For The Pulse, Alexi Grime, Fairfield.
Salem, Massachusetts is home to the witch trials. Sacred Heart students recently took a trip and a tour through the iconic Salem Witch Museum and saw some spine-chilling exhibits, as well as a chance to explore a town where history meets the paranormal. Kayla Nista has the story.
October is here, and there is no better place to experience the Halloween spirit than Salem, Massachusetts. Known for its haunted history and the infamous witch trials, Salem draws visitors from all over to explore its spooky past. Senior Zoe Pazarjan, a lifelong Salem resident, shares her must-see attractions when visiting Salem and shares some unique history about the town.
I'm from Salem, Massachusetts. I've lived there my whole entire life. They have a lot of cool history there. They have museums and graveyards with the witches and the people who did the trials. They have tons of tourist attractions that I've also gone to. You can participate in a witch trial. You can go on walking tours and they talk about all the history that's there, and it's super dense in history, I would say. It's also on the water, so you can have a nice bite to eat at the cool restaurants over there, and it's a really cool atmosphere to just go out with your friends and walk around and meet new people, because there's always so many tourists walking through, and it's really cool to see everyone. Also, a fact I learned is that the witch trials that everyone knows didn't actually happen in Salem as it is now. They happened in Danvers, in the old Salem village, which is really cool, because most people think that Salem's the witch capital place.
This past Saturday, SHU students were able to take a trip to Salem to see and learn about the history of the town. Students were able to visit the Witch House, home to Jonathan Corwin, one of the judges on the trials. It is Salem's only structure still standing with direct ties to the Salem witch trials. Coordinator of the trip and assistant director of first-year programs, Victoria Vaca, gives insight on what SHU students were able to experience in Salem.
A few years ago, I was actually a graduate assistant in the Office of Student Life, and I had a co-graduate assistant at the time, and she was tasked with planning some sort of trip from the Dean of Students, and she was like, Salem could be cool. So it kind of started with her and I just taking it and running it, and then we got such great traction that we kept it going. Now it's 4 years later, so kind of crazy. The highlight is the Salem Witch Museum tour that we sponsor. So some students choose to dress up and walk around the town, but I would say the highlight for everyone really is that Witch Museum tour, because you're walking around, it's guided for over an hour to hear about the Salem witch trials and then kind of the lore that all of us know from the holiday. We see so much traction with this every year that I'm gonna continue doing it. Ideally, I would love to get more buses to go up there. We book this months in advance, so if that's something I'm able to do and I know students want to go, I'm going to keep doing it as long as they tell me they want it.
For SHU students, visiting Salem was an unforgettable experience. From exploring the Witch Museum to walking through the Witch House and the first church in Salem, students got a first-hand look at the town's history. For Salem, it's not just about the past. Today, the town is filled with witch enthusiasts and fall festivities to keep you busy all day long. Whether you are intrigued by its history or looking for a new Halloween tradition, Salem has something for everyone. For The Pulse, Kayla Nista, Fairfield.
What a cool place. Have you ever been to Salem, Molly?
Actually, I have, but after watching Kayla's story, I now want to go back even more.
Well, that's all we have for you today.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune into our next episode. I'm Molly Bruton.
And I'm Samantha Morano. We'll see you next time on The Pulse.
It's witchcraft.
wicked witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse the need in me, my heart says yes indeed in me. Proceed with what you're leading me to.